Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Search Sessions is a bi-weekly show we're hosting during the COVID-19 pandemic to help businesses and our community best position themselves for success during and after the crisis. We host this every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain and bring on industry experts and thought leaders to provide business advice and guidance during these times. And every week, our brilliant SEO leaders at Boostability provide weekly SEO advice and tips for how you can optimize your SEO. This week, we have a show packed with valuable advice and information from Vendasta. We're going to be talking about the importance of protecting local and understanding how to evolve your business for today and tomorrow. Relying on data from the company's partners and millions of SMB clients, Vendasta CMO Jeff Tomlin is going to provide a data-backed talk explaining how the digital landscape is changing for local businesses all around the world. It's going to be incredible, and that brings us to our special guest. We have Jeff Tomlin, the CMO and co-founder of Vendasta here today. Jeff is responsible for measuring and analyzing the effectiveness of Vendasta's marketing efforts and constantly developing and iterating on strategic plans, seeking out the most effective path for his company and their clients. Jeff, thank you so much for being here today.
Amanda, thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped to be here and excited for the little chat here.
Fantastic. And I'm Amanda Price, the VP of Marketing here at Boostability and your host. So let's jump in. Boostability is the global leader in small business and partner-focused white label SEO. We offer affordable SEO specifically designed to meet the needs of small to medium-sized businesses. Our proprietary technology Launchpad tracks over 2.3 million keyword rankings per month, which enables us to make SEO decisions based on millions of bits of information. Not only that, but we serve customers and partners all around the world. We're in 15 countries, 9 languages, and are quickly expanding across the globe. We get 86% of our customers on page 1 of Google within 6 months and got 69,000 keywords on the first page of Google in 2019. Boostability is dedicated to helping small businesses succeed online. And we are thrilled to have Vendasta here today. Vendasta is the top end-to-end customer platform for companies who sell digital products and services to small and medium-sized businesses all around the world. With over 28,000 channel partners and 3.8 million SMBs, Vendasta is one of the top SMB digital products platforms in the world. Known for their rapid innovation, growth, and thought leadership, Vendasta's technology is changing the way partners and enterprises do business for SMBs. Today's talk is packed with information, so let's get started. We're going to take a look at the agenda. In today's agenda, we are going to explore the effects of COVID-19 on local businesses around the world. We'll look at how the way we shop and the way we work has changed fundamentally, and dive into understanding tools and trust and what you need to do. Then we're going to wrap up with some great Vendasta resources on how you can continue to learn and grow. We're going to dive into actionable SEO strategies from Boostability and then jump into Q&A. And next week, we have an amazing show on June 10th about the COVID customer, understanding the changing customer to future-proof your business with special guests from HIG Capital Growth Partners, which is one of the top private equity firms in the world with $37 billion in assets under management. Ancestry.com, the global leader in family history and consumer genomics, and Guru.com, where you can find and hire local expert freelancers. All right, let's jump in. So our big question for the day is, how did COVID-19 change the digital landscape for local businesses around the world? Jeff, over to you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And this is a great question. And to be certain, we're learning more about this every single day and every single month as we deal with all of this. And as a little bit of a level set, no matter where you are, whether you're in your office right now, whether you're working from home, your home office, you're in your car, we're all facing the same enormous problem right now. And it's not just the virus itself. The effects are shaking out. 3.8 million Americans have applied for unemployment insurance since mid-March. And that's more than the entire population of the company or the country that I'm calling from. Canada's 37.5 million people in total. So, I mean, the effects are enormous. And if you look at the search trends here and the search for unemployment insurance, and you see what's happening right now, it makes the financial meltdown that happened in 2008 look like just a blip on the screen. So that really underscores, really what we're dealing with right now. And, as we look at the effects across different industries, local businesses, especially small businesses, have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. 40% of the vulnerable jobs are with the, businesses with less than 100 employees. And more than 1 in 5 of the United States, 30 million small businesses say they could close permanently, in the next couple of months because of the coronavirus pandemic. According to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, it was a survey that was just recently done, and that's despite all of the government support that's been rolling out. We expected some changes, to the retail landscape with the growth of, obviously companies like Amazon and other online retailers. But we didn't expect anything like this to happen, and to happen so suddenly, to the retail landscape. If you look at the statistics, obviously retail and food services have been massively impacted. April results down 16.4% compared to March. And if you compare this April to last April of 2019, it's down 21.6% year over year. And if you look at historically the growth in retail, there's over 1 million retail establishments across the United States, and retail sales until now have grown about 4% annually since 2010, just consistent growth. And so these declines were pretty dramatic. But this talk is not a doom and gloom talk. There is reason for a lot of optimism, and retailers are some of the most optimistic right now. A lot of them, 35% of them, indicate that not only are they optimistic, but they anticipate increasing investments in the coming year. And those investments are going into e-commerce by far. We see that right now with e-commerce, we see web penetration up 16.2% compared to last year. E-commerce sales have grown to 146.47 billion. So it's up 5.9% total sales in Q1. So, that's massive. And if anything underscores the impact of what we're seeing here, is this massive hockey stick that's happened in just the last 8 weeks. You look at the growth in e-commerce over the last 10 years and compare it to what's just happened in the last 8 weeks, you see this unprecedented acceleration in technology adoption.
Wow, that really shows the impact of what's happening right now. I actually haven't seen a graph like that. That's pretty mind-blowing.
Well, especially for an industry like that big, to see that type of hockey stick is absolutely unbelievable.
Right.
And, if you look at the search trends, you can see that, searches for e-commerce have suddenly just popped, in the past couple of weeks. If you're looking at e-commerce trending, obviously way up, according to Adobe's digital e-commerce index, e-commerce increased 49% month over month from March to April. And WebSmith, who is the founder of 2PM, he writes about media and commerce, predicts 50% jump in e-commerce sales by next year, like overall in total, which is pretty dramatic. If there's one story that sort of underscores, what's happening, I think that it's the UPS story. So with e-commerce comes boxes on doorsteps, right? UPS paints an interesting picture of the Q1 and what happened. So 70% of UPS deliveries were residential, but SMB volumes went flat. And so UPS attributed this to the likelihood that small businesses were more likely, they temporarily had to halt operations and they couldn't get online. But this flattening out of business was this massive reversal of a multiple quarters of growth in delivery. So when shopping migrated online, it triggered this huge surge in delivery led by UPS's biggest customers. So who would those be? Well, Amazon saw 26% increase in net sales year over year. In just the first quarter of this year, Walmart saw e-commerce sales grow 74%, which is absolutely incredible.
Wow.
If you think that's incredible, Target's digital sales were up 141% in the same period.
Oh my goodness.
So those guys are absolutely surging. And if you looked at the growth in e-commerce across all the different categories, and this is pre-COVID, these numbers were coming from through the end of 2019, you saw growth in almost all the different business categories, especially, being led by housewares, home furnishings, food and beverage, sporting goods, up at the top of the list. But in general, strong growth right across a whole bunch of different sectors. But all of this growth is not just the massive retailers like Amazon online. When this happened, it spurred a call to action, massive call to action by small businesses, right across the world. But we especially saw it here in North America, that's for sure. Shopify stores, the number of stores at ours, up 62% just between March and April 24th, which was the time frame we were measuring there. Gross merchandise volume in Q1, up 46% to 17.4 billion in just in one quarter. And so this is local online retailers. And I think that they're uniquely positioned to, not just survive, but actually thrive and compete with, the Amazons in the world, because we're seeing this huge trend in curbside pickup or purchase online, pickup in store. And a lot of things that are purchased this way are far less expensive, up to 25% less expensive, because you don't have the delivery component attached to it. People want to get their things that they purchase the same day that they purchase them, and they're willing to do this, and they've been embracing this curbside pickup and in-store pickup.
And I love it because, number one, I love that the title of the slide is that SMBs are evolving, because that's kind of been a theme we've been talking about, is in times of change, there's also opportunity. And if you see the opportunity, as you showed on the last slide, there's actually a huge surge. The customers' needs have just shifted in terms of what are their priorities, what do they want? And if you as a small business, are able to meet those needs through safe commerce, through e-commerce, people are going to want to support you, and they want to support their local community and small businesses. And so I love this, because it really puts, I think, control back into the SMB. And you might have to rethink some of the things that, you're doing in your business model, but there's massive opportunity right now. It's just shifted. It's changed.
Obviously people are spending tons and tons of money, and in growing numbers, on Amazon, but people want to shop locally. I mean,
yes.
The options weren't available before,
Right.
So the way that we're working is also evolving, dramatically. And if you look, probably one of the most dramatic examples is this massive growth in Zoom. Probably the biggest growth that any technology company has seen ever. In December, Zoom had 10 million users. In March, they have 200 million. Unbelievable. Google Hangouts now, we know as Google Meet, daily active users increased 25x, over the same period of time. Facebook messaging also, way up, messaging usage and video calling. And so it's going to change the habits and the way that, we interact. And it's going to change the way that, people that have been resistant to, interacting online and, instant messaging and emailing, be doing more and more of this. So we're going to see, new habits born out of this. And companies that, hadn't embraced remote work now, in the past, are seeing that, remote work it works, and it can work, and it can be extremely effective. And we see companies now like Shopify and like Facebook making long-term plans now to make some of their remote working more permanent. And so that's dramatic. But it's not just, the remote nature isn't just for us working internally and communicating and collaborating internally inside of a business. It also works with communicating with our clients.
I
Frederick.
I love that you brought this up, because I feel like everyone's talking about just work from home, but you're so right. Like, not only the thing that will also change is how we work with our clients, and you can do that remotely. I love this point.
For sure. So Frederick Goldman is a manufacturer of wedding, bridal, men's jewelry. He's hosting virtual sales calls throughout the US. Auto dealers are doing virtual test drives. And it's not crazy because, if you look at one particular company, more than half of Tesla's customers in some parts of the world, if we just forward ahead to the next slide, they'll buy a car without a test drive, over 50% of them. So, by the way, in case you're wondering, Tuesday at 4 p.m. seems to be the most popular time to buy a car. Just interesting. I don't know that I could make this leap, but it's absolutely crazy that so many people have made this leap. So it's pretty incredible that these are the types of things that the people are transacting online. And I think that this quote is sort of self-explanatory or self-evident, but I agree with Susan on this. I think that when we look back on this event, we're going to see it as the greatest technology accelerator that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about a particular case study. But before I do that, I just thought I'd do a quick level set for people in the audience if they don't understand actually what I do, what Vendasta does. So especially through all of this, we're trying to bring calm to the chaos. We work with technology enablers. So people like with ICT sector, media companies, or marketing agencies that are working to enable a small business with technology. So we provide them, a marketplace that they can sell solutions from very easily. So we just forward, you can show the type of different solutions that you sell through a marketplace. Then we focus on working remotely, not just internally, but also communicating and selling externally with customers. And then lastly, we've been focused on building a community of resources so our customers can learn and grow. So that's sort of our focus on what we've been doing. And on their client side, we provide a business app so that the client can understand and have all of their digital needs sort of in one login. And they can get a full picture of their business's online commerce through sort of one lens.
And Jeff, this is like perfect timing, because this is exactly what businesses need right now. Like, the world has changed, digital has accelerated, and a lot of small businesses and local businesses in the past didn't have access to this stuff. And it sounds like Vendasta is really solving that problem for them and the agencies and partners that support them. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, and when the event happened, we had to change like a lot of businesses and evolve to how things have changed, especially the marketplace. So one of the things that we did was we developed this Protect Local initiative, where we put together an online toolkit that helped our partners provide a free set of resources to allow their customers not just to get online, but to also be able to transact. And so it went far beyond just the retail space and being able to transact, but it covered the whole customer journey with marketing technologies in it too. It allowed our customers to get things into the hands of the small business for free, and then upgrade from there once they're able to see that they can start building a business online and transacting. So they can work with their customers to make them profitable and build revenue generating experiences. What we saw when we rolled that out is that obviously our focus was on the retail space, but as we rolled it out, we saw this huge growth in home services, health, and professional services. And so, we saw growth in a lot of different sectors, and some of them aren't just surviving, they're thriving. And again, I think that a lot of these different sectors have this unique advantage, with trends like curbside pickup and buy online, pick up in store surging. People want to be able to get their purchases the same day, and they want to buy locally. So we're seeing some great things there. Right before, just a last bit of background to my story here before I get into this case study. A lot of people probably recognize the boiling frog analogy, but if you aren't familiar with this, the concept is that if you throw a frog into boiling water, he'll leap out of it immediately. But if you put a frog into a cold pot of water and then you put the pot onto a stove and you turn the stove on, the frog will stay in the water and slowly be boiled to death. The analogy has been used to explain behaviors in a whole bunch of different business sectors and markets and industries, to describe what happens when markets change, and they change what seemingly slowly, but a lot of businesses don't react, and over time they fall behind. They either fall behind or they become obsolete. It happens in a lot of business sectors. If you look at a lot of local businesses, I think that what you find is there's still a large number of local businesses that have websites, but they have websites because they don't believe that it could really accelerate their business, but they've got the website because it's understood that, if I've got a website or I've got a business, I'm just expected that I have a website. And they've essentially just been billboards to show you what the business is and what the hours are and what the phone number is. But they weren't methods to actually transact and generate revenue from. And now, with this massive event that's happened, a lot of businesses have been thrust into figuring out a way to help have their business actually survive. And the website's been the vehicle for that. This is a local retailer here from Saskatoon. Is actually the uncle of a Vendasta employee. So a gentleman on my marketing team, his name is Ryland Morris. His uncle has a store called Amazing Stories, comic book story, and sells games. And I know Ryland's tried to convince his uncle for a very long time to sell things online through his website. But again, he was an example of a business that just had a billboard type website, and it wasn't a really valuable part of his business. And all of a sudden, well, what he said in the past when Ryland asked him about doing repeatedly, he said, I don't understand the stuff. I don't know how I would do it. And I think I would rather just close up shop than have to figure all of that stuff out and transform my business. Well, when this event happened, it thrust him into action, and he realized that he wasn't ready to close doors and roll up the mat. And so he made the leap. Ryland worked with, and I want to make a level set. This gentleman is on my marketing team. He's not a software developer. So, he's not a wizard. He's pretty technically savvy, probably more so than me, but he's not a software developer. He's on our marketing team. Helped him build a website very quickly. He evolved his existing site. I think it took him less than a day to do so. He added an e-commerce plugin to the site that he was able to do in about an hour. And then they started uploading inventory from the store. They figured out what things he wanted to sell. And so he got the e-commerce plugin online on, let me look at my notes here, April 18th. Got enough inventory online to really launch around May 9th. Between the period of May 9th and May 19th, he sold $6,000 worth of comics through his brand new e-commerce store. And so and if you look on this slide, it's great looking site. You look at the next slide, fantastic looking site. And the e-commerce capabilities are very smooth. And, he's having tremendous success. And so, I think like the takeaway from this is that if we can sell jewelry online, we can sell cars online, and we can sell comic books online, we can sell anything online, and anyone can do it. So that's the good news that I want to with that.
That is such a good, feel good story. I've just been smiling. I love that story. That's amazing. And I think that's another thing that's happened. There's been a paradigm shift, and people who were resistant online, there wasn't a choice. It was, do you want to shut down or do you want to keep going? And people have migrated, and it's working. And now, that opens up a whole new, business division that they can pursue, which is so exciting. So that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
And once he launched, after he got it up, there's, a focus on marketing on Facebook and a focus on search engine optimization. And so he's driving traffic to the site now, and he's got a real online business now.
I love it.
That's a great story. I want to shift a little bit to so we've been looking at trends from the local business angle. I want to talk a little bit about the technology enablers. So this is the people that help enable small businesses with their technology, whether it's ICT companies, media companies, or marketing agencies. They have to, I think, really sit down and consider the changes that are required to help business clients with this sort of breakneck digital acceleration. For those that are selling to small business right now, it's important to build trust. On the one hand, we've been discussing, these consumer trends, but now we're discussing the B2B trends, and they're more important than ever. Offering solutions in a way, and I'll throw out where I'm going right now. Offering free and freemium type solutions are so critical because wary business owners need to catch their breath and move beyond the fear of lost revenue. They're operating right now from a point where they don't have a lot of cash flow, and everything is risky. And so you have to build trust, and as you're working with them, and you have to show them a path forward. And people want to buy this way. If you look at the traditional way that we've sold and provided services to people, this is sort of the traditional approach. You generate leads, you qualify the leads, you hand them over to sales, they become a customer, and then you provide them products and services as they become a customer. So, the product experience here begins post-conversion. What I'm talking about is adopting a product-led sort of growth model. And what that means is that we get them into the product and experiencing some value up front. And as they're experiencing a product, we engage them with sales. In this type of scenario, the product leads the initial customer experience. And it's critical. It leads to faster sales cycles. By having prospects sort of onboard themselves, you can significantly reduce the prospect's time to value and compress the sales cycle. People want to purchase this way. This is not anything new. 3 out of 4 B2B buyers want to self-educate rather than talk to sales reps about learning their products. The other reason why this is so critical is that the cost of acquiring customers is continually going up. The cost of acquiring customers increased 55% over the last short while willingness to pay is decreased by 30%. And if you look at the way we traditionally get customers, a lot of the advertising channels, the cost of advertising on them has gone up dramatically. And so you have to really consider the manner in which you're approaching the market and the manner in which you're acquiring the customers. You look at some of the most popular and successful companies that have been online over the last number of years: Dropbox, Slack, HubSpot. Even if you look at the model that Vendasta has for acquiring customers, you can see that the focus is on providing a friction-free sort of self-serve way that they can interact with your brand. You can show them value and grow them over time. This is some quick data by OpenView Ventures. The conclusion of the data, I won't walk through all of the numbers on it, but the conclusion on it is that companies that take sort of a product-led approach like the ones that I mentioned, at the end of the day, they're more valuable. They're more efficient in almost every category of SaaS metric that there is out there, especially when you look at things like gross margin, you look at revenue growth rate. they're just more efficient enterprises. And so the last note I want to put on this is, if you adopt this type of approach, retention is also noticeably better for people that have friction-free self-serve ways that people can initially interact with your company. And so I want to put a fork in that. I think it's really critical because the customer has, they've been changing for a long time, but especially with this pandemic, cash is even more difficult to come by, and we have to build that trust up front. And so, as we start to wrap things up here, the world is changing, and it's changing again. Things are starting to open up. Governments the rules are easing. There's less panic, and checks are arriving. So we have to be mindful as things change. Yeah, by the way, if you look at places like Texas and Georgia, restaurant spending is starting to recover, and so that's good news for us. But it took nearly 22 days for to shut down the internet. If this information, this is by Deutsche Bank research, if it's any indication, it may take 4 to 10 times as long to open it back up. So we can't stop the impact of the virus, but we can lessen sort of the long-term blow if we're smart about the way we approach things, and we think short-term, and then we think long-term about how we need to evolve. So I've got takeaways for the two groups that I talked about. These are the takeaways for the B2B business people. So again, this is the technology accelerators, ICT, media, digital agency. If you're working with your customers, think about how you need to earn trust up front, how you can lower your cost of acquiring customers and show them value up front, show them a path toward transacting and reimagining their business and how they can generate actual revenue online by focusing on e-commerce first. Build a foundational suite for survival around that. So after we've got e-commerce capabilities, focus on the marketing aspects of it. Things like search engine optimization, drive traffic to it. And then think about how you need to embrace remote technologies, not just internally, but also external communication with your clients. So the takeaways for the small businesses and local business in the audience, please adopt e-commerce now. And e-commerce isn't just shopping cart and purchasing online. It's also things like appointment setting, things that drive actual business. And think about how the advantage that you have and how you can take advantage of trends like curbside pickup, indoor pickup, and how people want to transact and how they want to receive, purchases now. Think about the categories that are really growing. Think about your communication strategies, how you need to be able to communicate with customers in this new sort of remote type world that we're looking in. And by the way, it could be longer than we think. If another wave of this comes by, we could be facing this reality for foreseeable months. And so you got to make sure you got these capabilities, and then build out your capabilities across your stack. Build the way to transact online, and then think about how do you drive eyeballs to those new capabilities that you have. Just to wrap things up, my last few words, trust and strength is returning to local economies. The trust will be earned between digital experts and small businesses who need digital solutions. Consumers will keep their new habits. I think we'll see that. At least some of them, or a good number of them will. They'll exist in supplementing in-store visits, and digital acceleration is here. It's brought the inevitable, the necessary, and it's here today. Thank you so much. Back to you, Amanda.
Thank you. So that was just a phenomenal talk, Jeff. Thank you so much. And you guys have amazing resources online as well. I know that there's a Conquer Local Academy where you can come and learn tons of things on digital marketing. Can you talk to us a little bit about all the different growing and learning opportunities with Vendasta?
Yeah, there's a few things that you have listed right there. First is the Conquer Local Academy. We wanted a more interactive way that our customers could learn, not just about software and things that we provide, but about approaches to delivering that to their customers. We wanted a place where they could interact with other customers and share knowledge, across the community. So we've seen the growth of our community, and then lastly, we've got our podcast where we talk about strategies on a weekly basis.
Fantastic. And we'll be linking these on our site as well on search sessions, and then we'll be sending out a follow-up email with everyone so that you guys can get access to all these amazing resources. Thank you so much. All right, so now we're going to dive into our actionable SEO strategies. We're going to talk about a local SEO checklist. We have Colton Miller, our Director of SEO, here today. Colton, thanks so much for being here.
As always, it's a pleasure being here.
Fantastic. And Mike Marsh, our SEO Manager. Mike, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Amanda.
Of course. Mike and Colton, over to you.
Awesome. So jumping right into it, we kind of stayed on the theme of, keeping it local and how you can kind of improve your local presence and just shore up things locally, especially to take care of things in the COVID kind of atmosphere. To start off, especially kind of gearing towards the e-commerce side of things, we did want to kick off with Google My Business and just kind of make sure that you're checking the box there. Make sure your phone number, your name is correct, different things like that. Probably some of the more prominent things are going to be things like your hours, making sure those are correct, making sure that some of the extras are there. If you're offering delivery now that maybe you didn't offer before, make sure you're going in there, updating some of those things. Google now has some additional options specifically around COVID-related things. They also allow some additional kind of hours, things like that as well. So make sure if you haven't gone in and kind of check those options that you're going in there, and just double checking that if you need to, you are adding additional options in there as well. Kick it over to Mike for the next.
And for sure, along those same lines with Google My Business, there's a lot of functionality that you can include in there to help optimize for local specifically. So you can do posts, you can do Q&As, you can do different things that will help your local SEO specifically quite a bit. In addition to that, the reviews on Google My Business and the reviews in general. If you're not soliciting for reviews, you should definitely look into how to solicit for reviews. I know that when Google shut down their review process for the short term, that was kind of put on the back burner. But in instances, you just need to have a lot of different avenues. So there's Yelp, there's Google, there's the BBB, there's different tons of different avenues. Wherever you think customers are going to be looking, look for those types of review platforms. In addition to that, look for case studies. Like we mentioned today, when Jeff mentioned his case study, it's a great, it helps with that kind of that trust building that we've talked about in the past and that we talked about today, where showing that your work is actually providing a benefit for your customers can really have that social proof that you need. And so reaching out and having those specific campaigns and managing those reviews and being very, very active with those can really help with your local. Because I know when I'm going on to Google and Google Maps, I'm looking at the best rated or the best reviewed restaurant or the best reviewed wherever I'm going. And so just make sure that you're really, really taking an active participation mindset with those reviews and for SEO and for local SEO specifically.
Just to tack onto that super quick, just do a quick Google search, right? Different searches like best, those are actually taking your star ratings right into the search results, or those are being factored right in there. The other bit is that if you're not sure who you should prioritize, just do a Google search. If you search your name, and Yelp is the number one, you know that you need to prioritize Yelp. So it's really not that difficult. Just search yourself, and then you can definitely see who you should be prioritizing and kind of that list. So leave it over to Mike again.
Oh yeah. And the next one is the contact page updates. The reason why I put this in here is you need to be communicating with your clients and your customers, obviously, at all times. But you ask yourself, what? I need to be including my name, my phone, my address, my hours of operation. But you need to do that not just in one location and call it done. You need to be going on site, making sure that you're using schema markup. And if you don't know what that is, and if you need help with that, that's something that we can do. That's something that you can do fairly easy with a lot of add-ons and plugins for your website. But also go on to business listings. There's tons of business listing websites that Google will crawl and that Google uses in addition to GMB that they use to recognize a business as an actual physical entity. And so including the name, phone, address, hours of operation across the board and on all social media, it's so frustrating when you're going on and you're looking for a company and they don't have a website, and on their social media, they're not including this kind of information. Like, it's a big turnoff. So make sure that you're going on all social media and including those, like your phone, your address, and your hours of operation for sure across all those. So you have those optimized.
Yeah, and then rounding it off, when it comes to content, now is the time, especially if you have any sort of downtime, free time, anything like that. Make sure that you're kind of taking now as the time to make your content as strategic as possible. Make it as local and specific as possible. Now is the time. Phone calls, as we kind of learned with EX a few weeks back, phone calls are off the charts nowadays. So there's a real good chance that you're getting questions that either are kind of redundant questions or things that you're just kind of keep hearing about. So if you keep hearing questions, maybe that's something that you need to add to your website, or maybe there's an FAQ that you could be adding to your website, or maybe these are things that you could be making specific to, let's say, your service pages or your product pages. So these are all things that you could be adding to your website. Same thing can go with local specific content. If you have a specific, kind of style or something that you may add to a product or a service, dealing with, I don't know, let's say a climate need or something like that with your service, make sure that you're noting that with your content and make sure that you're just putting that out there. There's a real good chance that kind of the generic content is kind of something everybody's putting out there. So the more specific and kind of the tailored to your area, and the more just kind of specific to you and your area, the more unique you're going to be, and the more called out you're going to be from Google, which is going to obviously help you rank. So, keep it strategic, keep it high level, keep it unique.
Yeah. And that's it for the local SEO checklist. So shoot it back over to you, Amanda.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. All right, so now we're going to jump into Q&A. We have a bunch of good questions coming through the pipeline. We have Christine Pratt, our show producer and head of content, here to take us through questions.
Hey everyone, thank you for your questions. If you still have some, you can submit it either through the webinar chat or through the Q&A. I'm monitoring both of those. So we've got a couple really good questions for Jeff, Mike, and Colton, because we've kind of focused on local throughout this entire talk. So the first one is, do small businesses who are local have the ability to compete with big companies now that, because everyone's kind of on e-commerce now, you've got the small local comic book store that's competing with some of the bigger shops. How can they make themselves more present to compete on a local level and on a bigger level? Jeff, I'll direct that one to you.
Yeah, well, first off, I do believe that, and I touched on this on talk, that I do believe that local businesses can compete with the large retailers. I think one of the biggest things that they have in their toolkit is the actual physical location. People want to buy locally if they can. The biggest challenge is that in the past, when you would conduct a Google search for a particular product, companies that came up were the ones that were ahead of the curve on the technology spectrum. Inventory would come up. So if you're looking for specific types of, you're looking for something to buy, like a Robert Graham t-shirt, and you would do a search for that, what you would find is large online retailers and their inventory coming up. And so I think one of the methods that people can think about if they want to compete with the big online retailers is to start to get your inventory online, and it is not super difficult. There's technology and simple plugins, especially people that are working on the WordPress platform that powers most of the internet now. There's simple plugins for e-commerce where you can get your inventory online. Those things will start showing up in search, and because of the local nature where you're located, you should have an advantage in search. I'll let Colton and Mike dovetail onto that, or let me know if you agree or disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting exactly on it. And I think that dovetails off of the last suggestion we had, which is just make sure you're adding that content to your website. And obviously, the more specific you are and just kind of adding that local content and kind of being more specific with your local area, plus adding that local inventory, you're going to show up. If you're adding a product name plus your local area, I mean, there's a reason why like Craigslist works out so well, right? It's because it has a specific product tied to a specific area. So yeah, you're already hitting on it.
Yeah, and I also agree. Nothing more to add.
Well, I think it's interesting that you brought up Craigslist because they facilitate e-commerce, and so it's like going and posting something on Craigslist isn't an example that people would traditionally say hey, that's a good example of e-commerce, but it's bringing two people together and facilitating the transaction. Up in Canada, we have a site called Kijiji, which does the same thing, and people use it widely. And the big benefit there is people search for actual products and services that they want, the details, which historically and typically haven't lived on local business web presence. But as you get your inventory online and you get more detailed information about your products and services, you'll start showing up in search, and you will compete.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Jeff, this one's directed to you. Earlier in the talk, you mentioned kind of a freemium model. How can local businesses directly adopt a freemium type model to attract local customers?
Oh, that's a great question. The way to do it is to think about what your definition of a conversion is on your website. And so e-commerce is one way. Obviously, a conversion when you have an e-commerce plugin, someone is going to your website and they're actually purchasing something. So that's a physical a service or a good. But there's other ways that you can generate eyeballs as well. If you have a digital type of service, people can sign up and they can use. That is an example of a great example where you can enable sort of a freemium approach. As well, you can take steps toward it by providing value. And I'd say this is sort of the place to start. How can I add value without people pulling out their wallet or their pocketbook? And so one of the ways is allow people to sign up for things like newsletters on your site. And in exchange, for email addresses, you give them value. You provide them value. Some small businesses have adopted, more robust technologies and built apps that they can provide their customers. Things like golf courses allow you to book tee times. I noticed this a local builder's warehouse that have a simple app that people can map out the design in their yard for sprinkler systems, but it's free to use. So there's a lot of creative ways that you can do it and approach it, but it begins with the question of how can I provide something of value before I ask for somebody's checkbook. And you can adopt that approach in addition to enabling e-commerce on your site, because people are ready to buy as well.
You know, I saw a really interesting kind of spin on that. I have a 2-year-old son, and I ordered him a water bottle from this company called Simple Modern on Amazon. And what they did, which is really smart, is inside the water bottle. So I bought it on Amazon. So they got the lead gen through Amazon, right? Amazon took a cut. Okay. But when I got the water bottle and I opened it up, they had a pamphlet on the inside that said, free, come redeem like a free plastic boot for the bottle so it doesn't slip at our website. So yes, they got me as a customer through my Amazon account, but because they offered something freemium, I actually went onto their website, signed up, gave them my information. So now I'm in their email drip system. They've cookied me and they can do retargeting. And now I'm going to get a free boot for my water bottle, which is awesome. And now I have developed an affinity for that brand because they did something free for me and unexpected. How cool is that? I thought that was really awesome.
It is super cool. And man, that is a great example of a growth loop.
Yeah.
So if, marketers these days are talking about growth loops now instead of marketing funnels.
Yep.
And the concept is, when you complete a transaction, how do you turn that transaction into another transaction?
Yeah.
Or how do you turn, when you get one customer, how do you get them to share their experience to turn one customer into 2 and 3 customers? Mm-hmm. And that is a great example of that type of thinking.
Isn't that so cool? Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
Thank you, everyone. That one's great. So I have 2 that are somewhat similar. So I'm going to direct this to Jeff first and then Mike and Colton for follow-up because it's SEO related also. So these are 2 businesses that aren't really e-commerce. One is a church, one offers mental health services. So they're asking how to attract more local traffic when they don't have that e-commerce option that we've been talking about.
Yeah. Did you guys want to take a first crack at that, or do you want me to go?
If you want to go
stab at it.
Oh, okay.
Of course, you'll let me take a stab at that. So it's a good question, and the solution for it isn't necessarily trivial. You have to first you have to start at the very beginning of the customer journey, when people are looking for you. What are the types of things that they're searching for? And so I always begin that with, sort of the end in mind. People that come to my church, if I want to attract more people, what are the things that they're looking for? And then I translate the actual search intent through the search discovery to the experience that you have, on your site. So that's where I would start in noodling that out.
Yeah, and when I think about those 2 businesses, I think your opportunity here is really content marketing. So if you're a church, why don't you take like different sermons, different, ideas that you have that you teach your community and put that into like a digital type of booklet, which people could buy from you. You could also create different guides and helpful things for them. Like, here's 5 practices that you could do at home, that align with the teachings of our church. And so you actually could create an e-commerce business. Or if you didn't want it to be e-commerce, you could just do a really, really solid content marketing plan. This is the same thing for the mental health type of business. There's so many people right now who feel isolated, and this has taken a toll on them being at shelter and home. Why don't you create a whole bunch of different downloadable guides and put bits of content out on Instagram and across social media, so that you can provide, like Jeff mentioned, that value, that ongoing value of why people decide to hire you or come to your church, because you're giving them that, that connection and that education. And so I think that right now is really a way to think of, okay, how do I take the business I was doing traditionally and move some of that digitally? And there are so many things you can do. in order to, create that loop. And then what that content, and this is a perfect dovetail for Mike and Colton, that content builds SEO value. So when people go online and they're searching like mental health in Saskatoon or mental health in Salt Lake City, Utah, you'll come up because you have this great content on your site. You've updated your GMB profile, but you're also having this long form content that people can get, and that improves your SEO. Guys, what do you think about that?
To take a stab at this, I think that we've mentioned a lot of things before where we talked about the value proposition. What does a conversion mean for you? And so where these are non-traditional e-commerce, or where you're trying to provide this service, shifting that and having that kind of mentality from a local aspect, and then including that content marketing from a local SEO perspective, including that content will help you get ranked for those specific terms that you've included in that content, where you're including the location or you're including the keywords that you want to rank for within that content, while also providing that value. It has that double-pronged ability to rank and also provide value, because that's what Google wants, is they want to serve up those results that provide the most value for their users, and the people and the way that they look at that are the KPIs. So is someone going on and looking at this content for an extended amount of time? Are they bouncing, or are they doing these different activities or these different actions that you've provided them? And Google will look at that, and if they're doing these things and hitting those KPIs, then you're going to rank better. So not only just doing content, but doing specific content like Colton's mentioned, that is specific for your business, that really solidifies that value proposition.
So the only thing I would add on to kind of everything that's been said, and I've said it before on a few other podcasts, and I think this is just the way of the future, is videos. And I think for both of these, I think the one thing that kind of crosses over both of these is actually community in general, and just wanting to feel connected, right? Mental health, you want to talk to somebody. If you're, kind of looking for religion, you probably also want to talk to somebody. And so in those two veins, you could potentially have Skype meetings, Zoom meetings, Google Hangout meetings, any one of those things that you could potentially put on YouTube. You could potentially have like Hangouts on, Twitch or something like that you could potentially monetize. Hell, you could even put them on YouTube and monetize them. There's all sorts of other ways you could potentially do podcasts as well and monetize those. There's other ways to monetize things outside of, selling things directly as well. So, and then obviously if you build a community, there's ways to monetize that as well. So,
I'd go out on a limb and say there probably aren't a lot of other mental health services in your local area that are doing robust content marketing. So, you research what people are actually looking for today in terms of mental health services, and you build content around that. Colton's exactly right. Video is the way of the future, telling little, small stories in video format, and linking through to, either ways to book a consultation online or providing free consultation services, the way to turn that into a conversion.
Oh, and exactly. And to go with that, you'd be surprised how much text you actually get if you transcribe a 5-minute video. You would get a wall. You'd get, almost, I guarantee, a 3,000, word count of text. So that's what I say. Video is definitely the way of the future. Definitely utilize it. And I think that's a great way to, not only monetize something, but also get content.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. We are out of questions. So Amanda, I will turn it back to you.
Great. All right, guys. Well, thank you for such an amazing show today. And we have a fantastic show coming up week after next as well. So tune in for our next show on Wednesday, June 10th at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. We have special guests from HIG Capital, Ancestry.com, and Guru.com to talk about the COVID customer. We're going to be diving into what you need to know about understanding this changing customer, their needs, anticipate, how you will need to interact with them in the future. And then we're going to dive into a bunch of different strategies to actually future-proof your business. So we'll be talking about how to take advantage of these new market opportunities and customer opportunities that have opened up, how to adjust your marketing and messaging, and how to future-proof your business to attract the right customers and keep the right customers. And as always, if you need help with your SEO, Boostability is here for you. Reach out to us at boostability.com or give us a call, and you can RSVP to the next show or watch this one again at boostability.com/search-sessions. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day.